Hello and welcome back. It is Thursday, January 29th, 2026. If you are just joining us for the first time, here's the deal. We take a massive stack of sources, articles, reports, sometimes those really dry academic papers, and we act as your filter. We try to find the signal in the noise.
That is the goal.
Yeah.
And today, I think the signal is incredibly loud.
It really is. I was looking at this collection of news we pulled for today, and, well, at first glance, it feels totally random. We have an update to Google Photos, we have a tax collection in Chittagong, some high-level IT investment strategies, and then this massive AI training program in the UK. It feels like a grab bag.
It does. But when you lay them all out on the table, a very specific picture starts to form. If I had to put a title on today's deep dive, I'd probably call it the end of the toy phase.
The end of the toy phase. I like that. It implies we are finally putting the toys away.
Exactly. Think about the last 10 years or so. Tech has often felt like a shiny distraction. You know, look at this cool filter, look at this funny gadget.
A new way to waste time.
Right. But the sources from today show us something very different. We're seeing what happens when technology stops being a novelty and starts becoming the actual plumbing of society. We're talking about digital maturity.
Digital maturity, it sounds...
And finally, we'll look at the human cost of all this. We're comparing a local AI boot camp at a university in Dhaka with a staggering plan from the UK government to retrain 10 million people.
It's a packed stack.
It is.
So let's dive in. I want to start with the thing everyone is going to be seeing on their phones this week. Google Photos. We all use it. It is essentially the digital attic where we just throw our memories and forget about them. But this new update, it is doing something weird.
It is. The headline feature is that Google Photos can now take your static still images photos you took years ago and convert them into short video clips. But it isn't just animating the movement. It is adding audio.
Okay, this is the part I need you to explain. Because if I take a photo of a beach in Cox's Bazar 5 years ago, my phone didn't record the sound, the microphone wasn't on, so where's the audio coming from?
That is where the generative AI comes in. The system analyzes the image. It looks at the pixels and it sees sand, it sees waves, it sees a crowd. Maybe it spots a seagull in the corner. It understands the context of the image. Then it synthesizes the audio that should be there. It is essentially hallucinating the soundscape based on what it sees.
Hallucinating is such a loaded word. So it's guessing what my memory sounded like.
It is a very educated guess based on millions of data points, but yes,
Yep.
it is inferring reality, and it is doing the same with emotion. It predicts how the water would move or how a person would turn their head, and it fills in those frames.
I have to be honest, I am torn on this. On one hand, it is incredibly cool. It brings a dead image back to life. On the other hand, isn't there something a little bit, I don't know, dystopian about an algorithm rewriting my nostalgia?
It touches on a concept researchers call synthetic memory. We used to view a photograph as a document of truth. You know, the camera never lies. But now we are entering an era where the photo is just a prompt. The AI fills in the gaps. It is prioritizing emotional resonance over factual accuracy. It makes the memory feel more real, even if the specific sound of that wave is technically fake.
That is a key distinction. Truth versus feeling. The AI is giving us the vibe of the memory, not the data of the memory.
Exactly.
But okay, that is the consumer side. That is the tech we use for fun. I want to shift gears to the tech we use because we have to.
The life admin stuff.
The life admin. Our sources today highlight two major shifts in Bangladesh that are arguably much more important than a moving photo. We are seeing a digitization of services that have historically been, well, let's be honest, a nightmare.
Let's start with healthcare. The Bangladesh Medical University, BMU, has officially launched a fully online payment system.
For the uninitiated, or for anyone who hasn't been to a major public hospital in a while, can you paint a picture of what the old system looked like? Why is this news?
The old system, and this is true for many hospitals globally, not just BMU, is a friction machine. Imagine this. You have a sick relative. You are stressed out of your mind. You need to pay for a diagnostic test or an admission fee. You have to physically leave the patient, go to a counter, stand in a long queue, and usually pay in cash.
And if the counter is closed or the server is down or you don't have the exact change.
Exactly. It is slow, it is prone to theft, and it adds what I call administrative trauma to the existing medical trauma.
Administrative trauma. That is a perfect way to describe standing in a line for 2 hours just to hand someone money while you're worried about your health.
Precisely. So BMU moving this online means patients can pay for everything, medical services, hospital bills, admission fees, through a digital platform. It sounds basic, right? Like, oh, it's just a payment gateway.
Mm-hmm.
But in a high-stress environment like a hospital, removing that friction is actually an act of care.
It is about dignity, really. It is respecting the patient's time. But there is another layer here, right? Transparency.
Huge. And that connects perfectly to the second update from the Chittagong City Corporation, the CCC. They have just inaugurated a digital method for collecting holding taxes.
Okay, pause. Holding tax. That sounds like jargon. Can you, explain it like I'm 5? Why does a regular person care about a holding tax?
Sure. A holding tax is basically a property tax.
Yeah.
If you own a building or a business space, you pay a tax to the city for the privilege of holding that property. This tax is the lifeblood of a city. It pays for the garbage trucks, the streetlights, the road repairs. It keeps the city running.
Okay, so it is the revenue stream.
Right. But traditionally, collecting this tax involves a tax collector showing up or you going to a dusty government office. It involves manual ledgers. And whenever you have manual cash handling, you have room for negotiation. Maybe the ledger gets lost. Maybe you pay a little less if you tip the collector. It is a system rife with what economists call leakage.
Leakage. That is a very polite word for corruption.
It is. By digitizing this, the CCC is doing 2 things. 1, they make it easier for the honest business owner to simply click and pay. But 2, they create a digital paper trail. You cannot bribe an app. The source explicitly says the goal is to make the process modern, transparent, and technology dependent.
I noticed they use that phrase technology dependent as a positive thing. Usually we complain about being too dependent on tech.
In governance, dependence on tech means independence from human error or human bias. It is that digital maturity theme again. We aren't using tech to be flashy. We are using it to enforce integrity.
So if we zoom out, we have BMU and CCC both saying, we are taking the cash out of the equation.
Yeah.
And when you remove physical cash, you remove a lot of the friction and the shadow that hangs over these transactions.
Precisely. It turns a murky interaction into a clean transaction.
But here's the rub. We have the tools, we have the payment gateways, we have the smartphones, the technology exists. So why isn't everything this seamless? Why does it still feel so hard to do business or get things done sometimes?
That is the perfect segue to our next stack of sources. We have a report on IT investment and a seminar on sustainable innovation. And honestly, this is where the narrative gets a little spicy.
How so?
Well, usually when we talk about developing the IT sector in a country like Bangladesh, the headline is always, we need more foreign direct investment, FDI. We need Silicon Valley money. We need London bankers to write big checks.
That is the standard playbook. Capital solves everything. If we just had more funding, we'd be the next tech hub.
But the IT entrepreneurs in Bangladesh are flipping the script. In this new report, they are actively arguing against, and I am quoting here, excessive reliance on foreign investment.
That feels completely counterintuitive. I have never met a startup founder who said, no thanks, keep your millions.
Yeah.
What is the logic there?
It is about sustainability. Think of it this way. FDI is like high-octane rocket fuel. It is great if you have a rocket. But if you put rocket fuel in a car with a broken engine and flat tires, you don't go to the moon. You just explode.
And the engine in this analogy is
Right.
what? Policy.
Exactly. The entrepreneurs are saying that cash is useless without policy consistency. They are demanding 3 things: consistency, equality, and transparency.
Let's break down policy consistency. Why is that the killer?
Imagine you spend 2 years building a fintech app based on the current rules. You hire people, you build the software. Then, overnight, the government changes the data privacy laws or adds a new digital tax. Your business model is dead. Not because the product was bad, but because the ground shifted under your feet.
So they're saying, don't give us money, give us a rule book that doesn't change every 6 months.
Yes, stability is an asset class. There was a beautiful phrase in the report that really stood out to me. They called for administrative goodwill.
Administrative goodwill. That sounds almost romantic. What does that mean in a cold, hard business context?
It is the human element of bureaucracy. It means that when an entrepreneur walks into a government office to get a permit, the bureaucrat shouldn't view them as a suspect to be investigated or a cash cow to be milked. They should view them as a partner. Goodwill means the administration is actively trying to help you succeed, not looking for reasons to say no.
That connects directly to the seminar on sustainable innovation we looked at. They had a conclusion about timing that seemed really relevant here.
Yes. It touches on what we call the policy paradox. Technology moves exponentially. AI updates happen weekly, but policy moves linearly. It takes years to pass a law. The seminar's insight was that if you try to regulate 2026 technology with 2020 laws, you stifle the innovation culture,
So the government needs to speed up.
or at least become more agile. The entrepreneurs are asking for bold initiatives from bureaucrats. They want the government to be an enabler, not a blocker. They are realizing that you can't buy an ecosystem with foreign cash. You have to build it with local trust and consistent rules.
It is like gardening. You can pour all the expensive fertilizer, the FDI you want, but if you don't water the plants and keep the pests away, the policy, it is all going to die anyway.
That is the perfect analogy. And speaking of watering the plants, let's talk about the most critical resource in this entire ecosystem. It's not money, it's not code, it's people.
The workforce. This is the third leg of our stool today. We have covered the tools like Google and the apps and the rules, the policy, now the talent.
And specifically AI talent. We are witnessing a global scramble for what we are calling AI literacy.
We have two very different examples of this in the stack. One is hyperlocal and one is massive. Let's start locally with United International University, UIU.
So UIU is hosting an AI camp, organized by a group called RISE. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, oh, another coding workshop, look at the context.
The context is survival, right?
It is. The source explicitly mentions that local industries are adopting AI now. This isn't theoretical. Employers are demanding these skills. So this camp is a direct response to a market signal. It is bottom-up. Industry says we need this, and the university scrambles to provide future-ready skills.
It is pragmatic. It is vocational training for the 21st century. But then you look at the UK, and the scale is just mind-boggling.
It is staggering. The UK government has launched an initiative to train 10 million workers in AI skills. 10 million. That is 1 crore people.
That is what? A massive chunk of their entire workforce.
Roughly a third, yes. And notice the difference. The UIU is bottom-up. The UK initiative is top-down. It is the government stepping in and saying, if our population cannot use these tools, our economy will become obsolete.
But what does training 10 million people even mean? Are they turning 10 million people into Python developers? Surely not.
No, and that is a common misconception. When we say AI literacy, now we don't mean coding the AI, we mean collaborating with it. It is about teaching an accountant how to use AI to audit faster. Teaching a marketer how to use generative tools like that Google Photos tech to create campaigns. Teaching a lawyer how to summarize case files.
So it is like when computer literacy became a thing in the 90s. You didn't need to know how to build a motherboard or write C++ Fin, but you had to know how to use Microsoft Word and send an email.
Exactly. If you couldn't type in 1995, you were unemployable. If you can't prompt in 2026, you might be in the same boat. The UK government realizes this is an existential threat to their productivity.
It is interesting to see the parallel, whether it is a single university in Dhaka or the entire government of the UK, the realization is the same. The operating system of work has changed. You either upgrade the user or the user becomes obsolete.
Upgrade the user, that is it. But this brings me back to a thought I have been having while we discuss the policy section. It connects all these dots. We are spending billions upgrading the users. The 10 million people in the UK, the students at UIU. We are upgrading the tools, Google, the digital tax systems, the hospital payments. But are we upgrading the managers?
The administrative goodwill, folks.
Yes, the institutions. You can have a workforce that is AI literate, and you can have tech that is cutting edge. But if the bureaucracy, the policymakers, and the institutions are still running on software 1.0, if they're still slow, suspicious, and paper-based, they become the bottleneck.
That is a scary thought. The people are ready, the machines are ready, but the system is lagging behind.
And that is the friction point of 2026. We need institutional literacy, just as much as we need AI literacy. We need bureaucrats who understand what an API is. We need policymakers who understand that data privacy isn't just about locking files in a metal cabinet.
So, if we look at our digital maturity theme, we're currently in a growth spurt. The limbs are getting longer, that's the tech. The brain is getting sharper, that's the workforce. But the skeleton, the government, and infrastructure needs to strengthen to support all that new weight.
Or the whole thing collapses under its own complexity. That is the challenge.
Well, that puts a lot of pieces into perspective. It is not just random news. It is a society trying to reconfigure itself for a new reality.
It is. And for our listener, the takeaway is to look at where you fit in that configuration. Are you upgrading your own software? And just as importantly, are you demanding that goodwill for the systems you interact with?
A powerful question to leave us with. We have gone from fake wave sounds and photos to the fundamental restructuring of the labor market. That is why we do the deep dive.
It has been a pleasure.
Thank you all for listening. Keep learning, keep questioning the system, and we will catch you in the next episode.